Good day. Welcome to episode 2 of Soul Food and Fuel for Your Life. I'm your host, Kenton David Bell. I am a transformational spiritual life coach healer. I focus a lot these days on deliberate creation, manifestation, creating more abundance, creating your soul's essence, your soul's purpose, helping people align to their soul song so they feel deeply satisfied and are able to access the gifts that their soul has for them. We all have gifts. In my case, some of my gifts is my work I do. I'm a clairvoyant, a clairaudient, channel, psychic, medium, talk to dead people sometimes. They're very easy to talk to. I sometimes have family reunions in my living room with dead relatives. It's very sweet. Anybody can learn to do that, really. There's nothing to be afraid of. We are eternal beings, always have been, and always will be. So I want to talk a little bit about myself and kind of expand on that so you understand who I am, where I'm coming from. So I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in the mid-90s. It was like 95, 96. And the way this came about is I'd been ill for a few years after returning from Southeast Asia. At the time, I had been living in Cambodia, Phnom Penh. I had a talent agency there, believe it or not. I am a method-trained actor, and I was pursuing that back then. And I was actually doing a lot of acting in Cambodia. I was doing a small film during the day. I was also casting director on that film. Plus, I had a part in it. And then I was in the Phnom Penh Players, which were part of an expat theater group. And we would put on plays for, the locals and the local expat community at the main theater there in Phnom Penh. So in a lot of ways, I was in my bliss. I was some days working 18 hours a day. I wasn't making much money, but I was doing what I loved, which was acting. I came down with a couple bouts shortly one after another of amoebic dysentery. Now, amoebic dysentery kills people every year. There's tons of people who die in third world countries from amoebic dysentery. And it is exactly how it sounds. It's an amoeba bug that gets into your gut and intestine. And well, let's just say you can't keep anything in you. It just comes in one end and goes out the other right away. You become very dehydrated, weak, very sick feeling, and you can never stray far from the water closet. Well, I came back to the U.S. after that period, and while I started to get better to some degree, I still felt fatigue, foggy brain. I would have a good day, then I would have a day that I felt completely wiped out. And this went on for a while. Went to a number of doctors. They really couldn't help me. Eventually, they kind of put me in the category of, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia stuff, kind of a wastebasket diagnoses is what they call that. So I was very frustrated. I was not happy about this at all, for I'd been pretty active my whole life, very active, a lot of energy, and never had something like this deter my physical self. After trying a few different things, mostly just Western medicine, traditional medicine, I decided that I needed to get better myself somehow. And one day, I was sitting on the couch. I was living in San Rafael, California, sitting on the couch, and this is a very important moment in my life. It was the first time, looking back, that I was aware of creating a powerful intention that was going to begin to change my life. And we'll go into that more about the intention, but kind of put a pin in that for the moment. So I was sitting there on the couch and I figured I had three choices. One is I could die, and that was sounding pretty good at the moment. Or I could stay the way I was, and that was completely unacceptable. Or somehow I could figure out what was going on and I could begin to heal myself or get the guidance or information or what have you to find the right person who could heal me. So I sat there contemplating these three choices, and death still sounded pretty good at that moment. I could come back to that, but why don't we try to heal ourselves first? So I set that intention. Little did I know in that moment how powerful that intention was. And part of the reason it was so powerful is because there was so much emotion wrapped up in it at that time. Now, when I create an intention, I usually do it through my connection with Source. I connect through my higher self, my soul's essence. And I think in those terms with the soul's essence, with Source. When I create my intention, and that brings powerful, almost immediate results, I find. So after I had that moment on the couch, it was within a week. I think it was about 4 or 5 days. I was actually making love with my girlfriend. And as I climaxed, I saw lightning shoot up my spine. At the moment, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just a great climax. I kind of blacked out for a few seconds. Felt great. You know how you do after a great sexual orgasm. And that was it. It was in the afternoon. Shortly after that, we went to sleep, woke up the next day. And the next day, out of my mouth, without it being computed in my brain at all, it was something came out of my mouth that wasn't a thought prior to voice coming out. I've never had this happen before that moment. And what came out of my mouth was, to my girlfriend at the time, I said, I think your brother's having an affair. He was married, and if you knew him, you would think he's not the kind of guy to have an affair. He seems, just a really grounded, earthy guy, nice guy. Didn't seem like that kind of duplicitous person who would have an affair and cheat on their wife. Anyhow, this came out of my mouth. I said, your brother's having an affair. And she looked at me and said, what? I said, I have no idea where that came from. It wasn't in my head. It literally just came out of my mouth. 2 days later, her sister-in-law called her and said, I think your brother's having an affair. Well, that was the beginning of my awakening. In that moment, when I saw the lightning shoot up my spine, I didn't realize it then. But now, when I know a lot more about Kundalini, I've been working with it for, 25 plus years now. And the lightning is depicted, Kundalini is depicted by lightning or serpents often. So that's what was going on. Kundalini is an energy at the base of one's spine. It is in every individual. It is an energy of transformation, probably the most powerful energy of transformation on the planet in humanity. At this time on the planet, in our species, the human species, there is more Kundalini being activated than ever before. Especially those who have practiced it in past lives. Many are waking up to that ability in them now again. And part of the reason for this is because of the great change that's taking place on the planet. So anyhow, I had this awakening. All of a sudden, things are coming out of my mouth every day. Not coming from the brain, just coming right out of the mouth. I have no idea where they're coming from. Just so happens, there are no coincidences, so I joke about this. Just so happens I lived right across the street from a psychic institute. It's in San Rafael. It was an offshoot of, for those of you who might know, an offshoot of the Berkeley Psychic Institute. They call it Psychic Kindergarten. I literally lived in an apartment complex right across the street in San Rafael. So all this stuff is happening to me. I start to have this guide show up in the evenings usually. Later, I learned it was Thoth, an Egyptian god. And he comes to teach me about the chakras, the layers in the field, stuff of this nature. So I go and take one of the basic classes across the street. And it's very basic stuff. They have you kind of fill into your energy, expand your energy. Well, we'd have a little lesson and homework and very simple stuff again. Just kind of feeling the energy, maybe touching the chakras barely. Anyhow, I'd go home, do the exercise, and then Thoth would give me the exercise for the following week. So I'd come back to class. It was a small group, maybe 10 of us. And I'm kind of thinking everybody's having the same experience I am. It turns out nobody else was. And I'd talk about the homework, and then I would say, when it was my turn to share, I would tell the instructor, hey, not only did I do the homework, but also I learned this, this, and this. And he'd say, whoa, Ken, slow down. And he goes, we're going to talk about that today. So I was receiving the lessons before class. So that was one of my first, I would say, confirmations, affirmations of what was coming through that. And the stuff that was coming out of my mouth almost every day would prove to be true, would be validated within 24, 48 hours. During this time, too, I started feeling better. I started having more energy, and I was also getting excited about this new thing that was happening to me. Felt like I was at a dead end. Didn't know where I was going and, what I was going to do next, not feeling good. And this was all opening up, and it was exciting. Sometimes it was overwhelming. I would have the Kundalini come up, and I'll go into Kundalini more in the future, but it's a very powerful energy, and it can really knock your socks off sometimes. Sometimes you're in this ecstatic states of ecstasy, just can't move, and your whole body's just buzzing with joy and love, and just amazing. And then other times you're completely fried, like the circuits in your system got overloaded from the energy going through, which is a real thing. So at this time, I became very sensitive to other people's energy fields. I would go to the grocery store, drugstore to pick something up, and I would be in the line at the cashiers, for instance, and there'd be 3 or 4 people ahead of me. And I could feel simultaneously what was going on with each person. I could feel their sadness, their grief. I could feel where maybe their energy field had a distortion in it, where a disease was beginning to develop. Or I could feel maybe their liver, kidneys were feeling taxed. And all this information would just flood in all at once, and it was quite overwhelming at times. I'd be overwhelmed, but at the same time, I was afraid to shut it down or ask for it to be shut down, because in the early days, I thought that if it stopped, maybe it would never come back. And while it was overwhelming at times, it was also the most exciting and most interesting and all-encompassing thing I had ever experienced. So I did not want it to stop. In a very short amount of time after my Kundalini awakening, my spontaneous Kundalini awakening, which is where the energy is at the base of the spine, and it's dormant in most people. And this energy can be triggered by a number of things. It can be triggered by stress. It can be triggered by drugs. It can be triggered by sex, in my case. It could be triggered a number of ways. There's many ways it could be triggered. A lot of people prepare the body with yoga intentionally before they bring up Kundalini energy, which is really the best and safest way to do it. Now, I was not searching for a spiritual path at the time. I was not looking for it. I was looking for healing. It found me. And shortly after this period, I don't know, it was just a few months, maybe 3, 4 months, I started working on people right away. Those evenings that Thoth would come and talk to me, he would show me the chakras and how they moved, and I started to realize I could move energy just through my thought, really. And once again, these are things I believe that all of us can learn. I believe that I've now, when I look back on my life and lives, I would say that I've been practicing these things in many past lives. It's been a thread. Being a healer, being a priest, being a spiritualist, sometimes being a spiritualist for God as a warrior, as a Templar perhaps, or Cathar. I have memories and senses of a lot of battling in the name of Christ, which is kind of just ridiculous and moronic if you think about it. But that's how it was back then. So I started working on people. And at first just volunteering a few friends, family members, and it just felt so right. I knew that this was my calling. I knew that I was here to help individuals, help others, help them clear their field, help them get more in alignment with their soul's purpose, their soul's calling, help them create better lives, healthier lives, more abundant lives. And so that journey began fairly quick. And before I knew it, I had a handful of clients on a regular basis. So there's different types of healers and psychics and spiritualists, spiritual teachers. Some you go to, for, 1 or 2 sessions, that's it. Some you will study maybe a program with. And then there's what I do, and it's kind of, those things are in there too, but really what I specialize in is working with people over time to help them develop into their true spiritual self, helping them develop the gifts, psychic gifts, clairvoyance, those inner intuitive gifts. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody has that intuitive DNA in them, though. The more that we start tapping into this, the better life gets. The more we begin to understand our own nature, but also the nature of our relationship to the universe, our relationship to each other, our relationship to God, whatever you want to call it. I kind of use universe and God source interchangeably. You'll hear me also talk about the universal current often. That is that source energy that flows through everything. It's not just energy, it's an intelligence as well. It's intelligence, it's creation itself. Everything that you experience here in this local universe is part of the universal current. So that's kind of the beginning of my awakening. Now, there are many, many stories to share, and I will do that over time because I think that these are very helpful. These stories are helpful. They help us understand kind of the human nature and the human response and relationship to a mystical Kundalini awakening in my case, and different types of awakenings. There are many types of awakenings people have, and to various degrees as well. Everybody's very unique. Everybody's here having their own unique experience. So we're going to end this section of the podcast, Chapter 1, Episode 2, and we'll be back shortly with Chapter 2. Thank you. So I'm going to share a story about a very powerful guru who came into my life. I guess you would say spirit nudges me to share a particular story at a particular time in order to make a particular impact. So that's the reasoning behind this timing and this story. And probably in each podcast, there'll be some story, there'll be probably an exercise too, and maybe sometimes some interviews with some people I know as well. So this guru's name, he's now passed. He's an Eastern Indian guru. Very, 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 very famous and popular, and it's sometimes controversial as well. His name was Sai Baba. Sai Baba, man of miracles. It's funny, he never wrote, but a few people wrote books about him. There's one called Sai Baba, Man of Miracles by, I think it's Muffet is his last name. Very good book. The best one on Sai Baba. I highly recommend it. A lot of energy in the book itself as well. So one day I was living very frugally in a Northern California small town called Windsor. Windsor, California is north of San Francisco, just barely south of Healdsburg, right in wine country there. At the time when I was living there, it was not necessarily a great town. It was kind of run down. Now it's been fixed up and revitalized. But at the time, it wasn't that, that great. And I was living in a large trailer, double wide, on somebody's property there for free in exchange for some work. That's kind of the space I was in at the moment. Kind of deep in my throes of my spiritual awakening. And I drove into Santa Rosa and went to a little metaphysical shop. And I was browsing. They have a little magazine that they published, kind of newspapery magazine that I picked up and took home. I think I maybe bought a few crystals or something like that. I was on a budget, so probably didn't spend too much. Anyhow, the next day I wake up, and it's kind of funny because there's some toilet humor, I guess, in here a little bit, but I was actually sitting on the toilet reading this magazine I'd picked up. And it had a little thing about this Indian saint. He had a giant afro and this orange robe. And I'm reading about this guy. He can, produce miracles and does it in front of people all the time. And I'm reading this. I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is bullshit. That's literally my thought. No sooner do I think that I'm sitting on the toilet, Sai Baba appears right before me in his etheric astral form. Almost as though it was a real person sitting there. It was so clear, coming through so clear. And I jumped. It scared the crap out of me. Pun intended. And I thought, wow, it was right away. I saw I was wrong. This guy's not full of shit. That was the response I had. And that's what triggered that. And so I went and bought some books and went back to the store that I was at. There was a couple books, and that's where I picked up that book, Sai Baba, Man of Miracles. Started reading it and got really into it. And I could feel his energy around. It was very loving, very helpful. And I could go on hours and hours about all the things that influences Sai Baba had on me. So anyhow, that was my first introduction. He became a part of my life. Skip ahead for a while, and I'm here in Sedona. I just moved to the area, had left Hawaii. This is another time, left Hawaii, moved to Sedona. And it's funny, this happened just literally a stone's throw from where I'm sitting right now. And there was a sacred geometry conference at the Hilton Hotel, and I live literally right behind the Hilton Hotel right now in a gated community. And during that period of time, I had it was about a week long, 6 days, I think. I had a little booth at table where I'm hawking my sessions and handing out brochures and telling people about my work. And there was a bunch of people that had tables there selling their books or their instruments of spirituality or what have you. And during the night, I was into reading this book about Sai Baba. One of the things Sai Baba is known for is just in public, in front of, hundreds, thousands of people, he'd open up his hands and literally ash would come pouring out of his hand, out of the palm of his hand. And this was called vibhuti, called sacred ash. And it was the consistency of very fine fireplace ash. And so I'm reading the book every night before I'm going to the conference. And it's like the second night, I think, in the conference, and I said, boy, I would just love some vibhuti, Sai Baba. And I've heard stories about if you're really devoted to Sai Baba, you have a picture of him. The picture frame will fill up with vibhuti in your house, even though you've never met Sai Baba. So I knew that these miracles were possible. I prayed that night going to sleep that I would receive some vibhuti. And woke up the next morning, kind of forgot about that because I was in a bit of an altered state, just getting ready to go to sleep, So that wasn't on my mind the next morning, and go to the conference. And I'm having a grand old time meeting all kinds of people, doing sessions with new people that actually, many of the people I met there had a huge influence on my life. As a matter of fact, I met my partner Sharon there, and we entered into a relationship for 7 years. That was an amazing relationship in many ways. And so that evening, as the conference is winding up, a woman, Star Fluentus, another incredible shamanic woman, she was having a party in her suite at the Hilton. So she invited me up. There was a lot of people there, and it was a spiritual party. There's no alcohol or stuff like that. It's just a little bit of soda. I think there was some cake or something, but a lot of really great people. And I met a good friend there, by somebody who became a good friend over time. His name was Stephen Angel. And he pulls out this little bindle of, wrapped up in paper, how people used to wrap up, in magazine paper, their cocaine in the 80s. I don't know if you people, those of you listening to that, can relate to that. But back then I was a bartender and cocaine was around. So I know, it looked like a little cocaine bindle. He pulled it out and opened it up in the party. And I'm thinking to myself, what's this guy doing? He's pulling cocaine in this party. This is totally inappropriate. And he offers me, he goes, would you like some vibhuti? And I'm like caught up in the moment in the party. I forgot that I'd asked for the vibhuti the night before. And I kind of went, no. I was kind of like, what are you doing? Put that thing away, whatever you think you're doing. And anyhow, he put it away. And so I just refused what I had asked for the night before. Anyhow, Stephen and I, we actually sat in my truck talking for hours about Sai Baba. He had actually been to India and sat in front of Sai Baba. He told me some stories. Anyhow, I dropped Stephen off. He needed a little ride, a few blocks, and I dropped him off. And I proceeded home. At the time, I was living in Cottonwood, which was like, 30-minute drive. As I'm driving home, it hits me. Oh, my God, I refused the vibhuti I asked for. So I'm praying to Sai Baba on the way home. Please, please, please let me have another opportunity. I get home now. I got to say, I'm completely sober, no intoxicants in my system. And I go into another bathroom thing with Sai Baba. I go in to urinate. As I'm peeing into the toilet, as my urine hits the clear water, it starts changing every color of the rainbow. Vivid purple, vivid yellow, pink, all these colors. And my urine is the right color, but as it hits the water, it changes all these colors. And I feel this incredible energy of love coming through me. And I know it's Sai Baba. This is Sai Baba's work. And so I go to bed thinking, oh my God, I really blew it. Go back the next day. This time I'm invited to a dinner. Some wealthy gentleman invited a bunch of us practitioners from the conference to dinner. And I sat down next to this woman. She's from Luxembourg. And she looks at me and says, I have something for you. I haven't told her anything about the vibhuti. And she reaches in her purse and says, this is some vibhuti direct from Sai Baba. Sai Baba gave it to the royal family of Luxembourg, and they gave me some. So now, of course, I'm not, I'm very cognizant of what's happening. I said, yes, that's right. It is for me. So she pulled out another little bag and poured some in a bag, just a little bit, and gave it to me. Anyhow, we start laughing. We're just kind of high on this energy. And there's a group, the table is full of about 10, 15 people, big group. And they start looking at us like we're drunk. They think we're drunk. And everybody's like this holier than thou spiritual people sitting at the table. It's hilarious. And the more they think and they're giving us this disgusting look like, you guys are drunk, aren't you? And we're going, no, we're just high on. The more we denied it, the more they would not believe us. It was hilarious. We weren't drunk, of course. We were high on the energy. Anyhow, we had this great dinner, blah, blah, blah. I went home and I had my bag of vibhuti. Now, the vibhuti, you would take just a little, stick your finger in, and put a little bit on your forehead or a little bit on your tongue. That's how it kind of as a sacrament. So I had this little bag of vibhuti, and long story short, over the years, it didn't run out for years, and it was just the tiniest amount. Somehow it kind of just remanifested itself over and over again. And it was also around that time that Sai Baba told me, "Oh, you will come and see me in 1 year." And that did happen. So it was a year later, I actually came to India and saw Sai Baba in person. Stayed at the ashram there for about 5-6 days in a place called Puttapari. It's a whole town built up around Sai Baba. He's become so famous. As a matter of fact, there's a great story from the gentleman who started the Hard Rock Cafe. Fairly common knowledge, I believe. And a long time ago. And this guy, I don't know his name, but he was one of the ones who started the Hard Rock Cafe. And he lived real hard, partied hard. So this guy who started a Hard Rock Cafe one night was partying really, really hard. And he was totally wasted, driving up Highway 1 in California, right on the coast there in Northern California. And he was so wasted, he drove off the cliff. And as he's driving off the cliff, the car continued, but according to him, this man with an afro and orange robe reached him, pulled him out, and put him on the ground. And I think it happened one more time, something about an overdose, and he was choking on his own vomit. Once again, this man came with the afro, kind of a spirit, and saved him from dying. So this guy was never holy or spiritual, the Hard Rock Cafe guy. And apparently, the way the story goes, from how I remember it, his friend said, "Hey, we're going to go to India and go to this lecture to hear about this guy who lives in India, who's this guru." And the guy with the Hard Rock Cafe said, "No, I'm not interested in that. That's not my thing." And he showed him a picture of the guy, and he goes, "Wait a minute, that's the guy who saved my life a few times." So he became a devotee of Sai Baba. As a matter of fact, I believe he ended up donating a lot of his wealth as a donation to Sai Baba, which Sai Baba was probably followed by more than they only can estimate, but probably hundreds of millions of followers around the planet. And a lot of top politicians in India, a lot of doctors who were devotees would report that when they're in surgery or even heart surgery, Sai Baba would come through them and do the operation through them. As a matter of fact, in Puttapari, there is a big hospital that specializes in cardiac stuff. And they have one of the highest success rates in the country for, heart attack, heart stuff healing. And most believe it's because of Sai Baba's energy there. You'll probably hear me talk about Sai Baba more in the future. And he imparted gifts to me. When he died, actually, I was in Cambodia, in Siem Reap, Cambodia, which is where Angkor Wat is. And I was spending about a week up there visiting the temples. It was my third time there, actually. Beautiful temples, largest temple complex on earth, Angkor Wat in northern Cambodia. And it's super hot there. And it's summer. It was extremely hot and humid. And I'd been out in the ruins during the day, and I came back in the afternoon to rest in the hotel in my AC cooled room. And I was sitting there or laying there on the bed, just relaxing. Sai Baba came to the foot of my bed and said, "I have a gift for you." And that was it. And 2 days later, I read that at that day, he died. He passed. And I didn't know until 2 days later. And he showed up at the foot of my bed and said, "I have a gift for you." So that is part of my experience with Sai Baba. He is, even though he's not in physical form anymore, he is in spiritual form, and anybody can call on him. His energy is a very strong mystical energy. And we'll talk about the mystic at some point too. In my opinion, what we're missing a lot in this country is mysticism. And that's a conversation for another day. So that's my story on Sai Baba. I'm going to stick with it. There's a lot more that I have around Sai Baba, but I'm not going to share that now. I encourage you, if that kind of piqued your interest, I would encourage you to get that book, Sai Baba, Man of Miracles. Thank you for taking the time to listening to my story. I hope that it helps infuse and shift you in the right way. And we'll be back shortly with our third chapter. Hello, and we're back. We're going to do a little meditation exercise here to finish off this episode. We're going to connect with our higher self. Anybody can do this. So whether you're new at this or something you do every day, all day long, I hope that you get something out of it. What I want to stress here is it's our beliefs and our thoughts that really shape our lives and the experiences we have. What I've found working with people over time is many people believe that they cannot connect to their higher self, or that it's a struggle, or that there's a lot of distance between their physical experience and the non-physical experience. The main thing that determines the difference, I've learned, is one's desire, passion, and determination, actually. Now, determination without struggle, without efforting, though. An intention and attention to that which we're wanting to connect to or wanting to create, that's important. So it's the belief that you can is what actually enforces the actual experience. So this is best done in a quiet place where you will not be disturbed, where you could sit up straight back. And take a deep breath. With each breath, take in life. Deep breath in, down into the diaphragm, and exhale. And as you do, allow yourself to say hello to your physical body. Just gotta say hello, body. Just acknowledge it. Now we're going to leave the consciousness of just the body and move into the consciousness of spirit. Just very gently close your eyes, still breathing. If your eyes were open, close them. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Focus on the breath. And very gently begin to hold the intention with certainty, yet gentleness. I'm now connecting to my higher self. When we set that intention, it is a universal law that we will connect to our higher self. Sometimes you might not feel anything, but that doesn't mean that you're not connected. So sitting there breathing, I connect to my higher self. I connect to that part of me that is non-physical. I connect and begin to identify with that part of me that is eternal. Never was born, never will die. Always has been, always will be. And that's the truth of who you really are. So allow yourself to feel that. Allow yourself to let go of the world surrounding you, your day, and gently let that sense of higher self, of spirit, begin to envelop you. I ask that my thoughts become one with the thoughts of God, one with the thoughts of Source, I ask that my thoughts become one with the thoughts of the universal current, the intelligence that is behind this great experience. I ask that my mind become one with my higher mind. I ask that my mind, my lower mind, be stilled so that the higher mind, which is usually the quieter voice, becomes dominant. I ask that I connect to my higher self, to my spirit, to the part of me that is eternal, the non-physical. I ask to be enveloped in this energy. I ask to feel it in my brain and my head. I ask to recognize it in my heart. I surrender the consciousness of the body for a moment and take on the consciousness of spirit. I allow myself to be guided. I allow myself to become one with my non-physical self, with my higher self. And as I surrender, I listen. I listen to the quiet voice, guidance. Perhaps you're feeling a little lost and need some guidance, and just ask your higher self, what is it that I need to know right now? What is it that's helpful for me in this moment? We listen and allow ourselves to receive the message of higher guidance. Maybe it comes through in a word. Maybe it's a phrase or a paragraph. Maybe it comes through in a song. I hear music a lot through spirit. Spirit plays music in my head all the time for clues, for stories, for guidance. Maybe it comes through in little vignettes, little movie clips in the head. Whether real or symbolic, literal or symbolic. Often spirit uses symbolism. So it might not be literal, maybe it's symbolic, the message that you're receiving. Long time ago when I first started this work, and especially for helping others, guiding others, I set a very clear intention with my higher self. Only that which is helpful come through. Only that which is helpful. A lot of times empirical evidence is not helpful when we're working with spirit. So we ask what is helpful, what's going to move us towards our path, what's going to move us towards our soul. Feeling the connection. Look for the subtleties. Maybe it's the absence of linear time. Maybe the day's stress and worries just fell away. Maybe you find yourself on a tropical beach in Hawaii. It can show up many different ways. Use this moment to refresh, to reset. And so it is. Gently come back. Say hello to the body again. Open your eyes if you're ready. Here's a little trick I've learned that's very good, is you take your fingers and rub your earlobes, the top and all the way down the sides. You do this, it really helps bring you present. If you're kind of tired at work day and, everybody's voices start to sound like wah, 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 wah. Go ahead and rub these earlobes. That helps bring you back, makes you present, and wakes you up. Good way to come out of a meditation. The other thing I like to do at the end sometimes, if I'm feeling spacey, is take 2 fingers and tap on the upper chest. Present here now. Present here now. Present here now. The only time we are in our power is when we're present. Our power is only available in the present. Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to our next time. I'm going to talk about, if you're interested in working with me, I'm going to give a little bit of a spiel right at the end here. Hi, this is Kenton David Bell. I'm a transformational spiritual healer, life coach, extraordinaire. I do a lot of different stuff. There's a bit of the mystic in me as well, the mystical, bringing the mystical back into the Western society, especially with entrepreneur types. A lot of entrepreneur types are in my practice right now, and I love working with people who are expanding. There's something about the creation process that is a real turn on for me. So everybody's a little bit different. One of the ways I go about the work is we begin by clearing the field, and everybody we start a little bit different with. I'm a channel, so me and spirit, my higher self, channel the information that is pertinent to that unique individual. So there's no cookie cutter mold here. There's a bunch of different things I do. I have a tool belt full of all kinds of tools. And so it's kind of an amalgam I do. And it's interactive always. We're always looking how to advance the individual on their soul path and how to bring more happiness, joy, health, well-being, expansion into their life. So if this is something that you're interested in, you're welcome to give me a call or email me. My phone number is 928-274-2026. And I'll talk to anybody for a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes, about whether we're a match to the work or not. It's not for everybody. And I love working with people who are hungry, who want to get the most out of this. Those are the people who pull the most out of me. So if you do want to work with me, I encourage you to be hungry for it. You'll get more out of it. You'll get more bang for your buck, so to speak. My website is kentondavidbell.com. There's some information on there. It's in dire need of updating. And my email is kentondavidbell@gmail.com if you want to email me. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Until next time, bye-bye.